All right, let's put on our detective hats, because today we're diving into the world of data. We're going to learn how to take a big, confusing mess of numbers and find the real story that's hiding inside. You ready? Let's do this.
You know that feeling, right? You're just drowning in a sea of numbers on a spreadsheet, and it all just looks like static. But what if I told you that it's not just noise? What if, with just a few key clues, you could actually make that data start talking to you?
Yeah, look at this. Right now, this is just a chaotic jumble of numbers. It means nothing. But trust me, buried deep inside that chaos is a pattern. It has a personality, a story that's just waiting for someone to tell it. And by the time we're done here, you are going to have the exact tools you need to be that person.
Okay, so every good detective knows you can't just start searching randomly. You need to know what you're looking for. And for us, data detectives, that means starting with let's call them the three big clues. These things exist in pretty much every data set you'll ever see, so consider this your mission briefing.
And here they are, our three big clues: center, spread, and shape. Simple, right? First, we find the center. That's kind of like finding the average Joe of our data. Then we check the spread. Is all the data huddled together, or is it spread out all over the place? And finally, we look at its shape. This is what gives our data its unique visual personality.
Now, the shape is probably the very first thing you'll notice when you actually visualize the data. Does it look like a nice, perfect, symmetrical hill, or is it kind of lopsided, with a long tail stretching out to one side? Statisticians have a word for that. They call it skewed. And honestly, this one visual clue can tell you more in like 2 seconds than staring at a boring spreadsheet for 2 minutes ever could.
So, you might be asking, how do we actually see this shape? How do we find these clues? Well, for that, you need the right tools for the job. So come on, let's open up our Data Detectives Toolkit and see what we've got.
First up, we've got the dot plot. I want you to think of this as the trusty magnifying glass in our toolkit. It's super simple, really direct, and honestly, it's incredibly effective. All you do is draw a number line, and then you just place a dot above the line for every single piece of data you have. That's it.
And bam! Just like that, the story starts to pop out at you. A dot plot is absolutely perfect for smaller sets of data because you can instantly see the overall shape. You can spot these little clusters where all the dots are bunched together, and you can see any gaps where there's no data at all. It is a fantastic first look at your evidence.
Okay, let's grab our next tool from the kit. This one is called the stem and leaf plot, and honestly, it's pretty clever. It organizes all your numbers by their place value, and the name gives it away, right? It's kind of like a plant. The first part of a number becomes the stem, and then the very last digit becomes a leaf that branches right off it. Let's actually see how this works. Say our data is the numbers 21, 25, and 30. Okay, so for 21 and 25, the 2 is our stem. Then you just add 2 leaves to it, a 1 and a 5. See? And for 30, the 3 is the stem, and the 0 is the leaf. And here's the really cool part. You've totally organized the data, but you haven't lost a single one of the original numbers. They're all still there. Okay, now listen up, because this is maybe the single most important rule for using this tool. You have to, I repeat, have to look at the key. The key is basically your secret decoder ring. It tells you exactly how to read the plot. So in this example, a 4 with a line and a 5 means the number 45. If you don't have that key, you're literally just guessing. Don't do it. All right, our third tool is a real powerhouse. This is the histogram. Now, at first glance, it might look like a regular old bar graph, but think of it more like its cooler, more sophisticated cousin. See, instead of showing totally separate categories, a histogram groups numbers together into continuous ranges, or what we call bins. So, there are a couple of key things to notice here. See how the bars are all touching? That's your big clue that the data is continuous. And the height of each bar just tells you the frequency. You know, how many data points fell into that specific range. But, and this is important, there's a trade-off. With a histogram, you lose the individual data points. You know how many numbers are in that 0 to 9 bin, but you don't know exactly what those numbers are. You know, every good detective story has its traps and its red herrings, right? Well, the world of data is no different. So let's talk about 2 of the most common mistakes people make, just so you don't fall into the same traps. Okay, trap number 1, confusing a bar graph with a histogram. I get it, it's an easy mistake to make. They look so similar. But here's the key difference you need to remember. Bar graphs compare separate things, like colors or categories, and they have gaps between the bars. Histograms show continuous ranges of numbers, so the bars always touch.
And trap number 2, we've talked about it, but it's worth saying again. Forgetting the key on a stem and leaf plot. Oh man, this is so critical. Forgetting the key is like throwing away your map right before you walk into a florist. You're just lost. That one with a 2 leaf, it could mean 12 or it can mean 1.2. The key is the only way you'll know for sure.
All right, detective, you've got the clues to look for: center, spread, and shape. You've got the tools to use, so let's do one final recap of your mission briefing, and we'll put this all together.
So here's your toolkit, boiled down to the essentials. You're going to grab the dot plot when you need a quick look at a small set of numbers. Think like your team's sales figures for the week. You'll use the stem and leaf plot when it's absolutely crucial to keep every single data point visible. And when you're staring down a mountain of data, like from a huge survey or something, the histogram is going to be your best friend for seeing that big picture story.
So there you have it. You're not just staring at a meaningless sea of numbers anymore, are you? You now have the fundamental tools to find the center, see the spread, and really visualize the shape of any data set. You literally have the power to turn chaos into clarity. So the only question left is, what story are you going to uncover next?